The twin sons of Solara. 7 were low in the sky, painting the endless desert with colors of molten gold and copper. The wind blew hot and dry, carrying fine orange dust that whispered across the barren dunes. Out here, miles from any real settlement, most people wouldn't think of stopping. Most people weren't like Jace Roan. Jace leaned forward on the handlebars of his solar-powered hoverbike, feeling the vibrations hum through his palms. His boots pressed against the footpads as he adjusted the throttle. The desert stretched before him, endless and unbroken except for the occasional canyon or jagged rock formation. He had been riding all day, following rumors and whispers about a rare artifact hidden somewhere in the eastern canyons. But more than the artifact, Jace rode for the quiet, the chance to be alone with the wind, the sand, and the distant stars beginning to appear in the fading sky. The small outpost of Dustwell was his first stop of the day. Dustwell was little more than a cluster of metal huts bolted to the dunes, with a landing pad for space freighters and a general store that sold everything from protein bars to hover fuel cartridges. A few miners, traders, and wanderers milled about, their voices blending with the low hum of machinery. The air smelled of metal, dry herbs, and warm dust. Jace slowed his hoverbike as he entered the outpost. He parked it near a solar charging station, letting the engines cool. Adjusting the wide brim of his dusty hat, he pushed the throttle lever down with a satisfying click. Knowing his bike would charge enough to last him until nightfall, he stepped onto the sand, boots crunching softly. Inside the small saloon, a few locals were gathered, sipping thick, bitter tea or mechanical nutrient drinks. Jace liked to listen as he moved through these places, quietly, without drawing attention. He'd spent years on Solara, 7 learning that the desert had stories of its own, but the people here had tales that made the sand and rocks feel alive. And today, he overheard something that made him pause. "You'll never find love out here," said one miner, his voice heavy with the kind of bitterness that came from too many years of dust and sun. "This planet eats hope for breakfast. Hearts get broken before breakfast, lunch, and dinner." A few other voices laughed in agreement. Jace's lips curved in a slight, almost imperceptible smile. He had heard this many times before, and yet part of him always hoped someone would be proven wrong. He left the saloon and wandered toward the edge of the outpost. That was when he saw her. Amara Voss was crouched beside a hovering star cart, her hands moving skillfully as she tightened a glowing energy conduit. Her hair was tied back, and her face glistened with a thin layer of sweat, but there was something in the way she worked, focused, careful, yet graceful, that caught Jace's attention. The desert sun made her tools sparkle, and even the heat could not hide the determination in her eyes. Jace cleared his throat softly. "Need a hand?" he asked. Amara looked up, startled at first, then gave a cautious smile. "I've got it mostly under control," she said. "But thanks. Mostly under control is better than none," Jace replied, his tone easy. "I know my way around tech, at least a little." She studied him for a moment, then nodded. "All right, maybe you can pass me that flux calibrator." Jace moved closer, handing her the small metallic tool. His eyes caught the subtle glow of the star cart's energy core, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. "First time on Solara?" "7?" she asked, without looking up. "Not my first," Jace said. "But I do enjoy meeting people who actually make the planet interesting." Amara raised an eyebrow. "That's a polite way of saying lonely." "Maybe," he said, shrugging. "Lonely can be peaceful." They worked side by side, fixing the star cart as the suns continued their slow descent. Dust swirled around their boots, catching in the low light. Jace found himself talking more than usual, not about himself, but about the desert, the canyons, the unusual rock formations, and hidden paths. Amara listened, occasionally adding her own notes or correcting him with gentle laughter. A group of traders walked past, nodding at Jace. One of them muttered under his breath, "You'll never find love out here." Jace felt the words again. Like a spark he hadn't expected, he didn't respond. Instead, he glanced at Amara, and this time she noticed him looking. Their eyes met briefly, and there was a silent understanding, almost a challenge, in her gaze. The desert was vast and harsh, but here, in this moment, the world felt smaller, warmer, alive. They finished the repairs just as the horizon began to glow in shades of pink and orange. Amara wiped her hands on a cloth, standing and stretching. "You're not bad for a stranger," she said, a hint of amusement in her voice. "You're not too bad yourself," Jace replied. For a few minutes, neither spoke, watching the twin suns sink lower. The sky above began to darken, revealing the first faint stars of the evening. Jace felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope, quiet and steady, rising like the desert wind, "Where are you headed?" Amara asked finally, her voice soft. "East," Jace said. "I'm chasing rumors. Something lost, something valuable. And if I told you the best treasures aren't gold or tech, but the connections you make along the way?" Amara teased. Jace smiled, shrugging again. "Then maybe I'd finally believe them." The wind picked up, carrying with it the scent of hot sand and distant oases. Jace looked at his hoverbike, then back at Amara. There was a choice to make: ride on into the empty desert, alone as always, or follow the spark of curiosity and companionship he hadn't expected. He took a deep breath. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. Amara studied him for a moment, then nodded, a small smile breaking across her face. "All right. But don't slow me down." Jace grinned. "Wouldn't dream of it." As they mounted their hoverbikes, the twin suns dipped just below the horizon. The desert stretched ahead, a ribbon of orange dunes and winding canyons. The stars began to shine brighter, reflecting off the metallic surfaces of their vehicles. Together, they rode into the unknown, the promise of adventure, and perhaps something more, guiding them forward. For the first time in a long while, Jace felt the desert wasn't just empty. It was full of possibilities. And maybe, just maybe, love could be found even here, in the windswept sands of Solara. The night settled around them, soft and quiet, as two silhouettes rode side by side. Somewhere far ahead, hidden in the canyons and the glow of distant stars, secrets waited to be discovered, and bonds waited to be formed. And for Jace Roan, the lonesome trail was no longer quite so lonely. The night on Solara, 7 was quiet, but alive with the soft hum of distant machinery and the faint wind brushing across the dunes. Jace Roan rode beside Amara Voss, their hoverbikes gliding smoothly over the desert sand. The twin moons rose slowly, casting silver light that reflected off the metallic surfaces of their bikes. Even in the emptiness of the frontier, there was a sense of rhythm here, as if the planet itself was guiding them. Jace glanced at Amara. She had a quiet confidence, moving with precision even as she navigated tricky slopes and shallow ravines. He could tell she had spent countless hours exploring this desert, understanding its hidden trails and secret paths. "How do you know this way?" he asked, curiosity winning over caution. Amara gave him a small smile. "Years of practice," she said. "You learn quickly which dunes will swallow your bike and which will carry you safely across." Jace nodded, impressed. "You make it sound easy. Nothing about this desert is easy," she replied. "You just get better at listening to it." The road ahead twisted between tall rock spires, forming natural corridors that glowed under moonlight. Jace followed closely, learning to trust her instinct. He had spent many days alone on Solara, 7, but riding alongside someone who truly understood the land was different, comfortable, exciting. After a few hours, they reached a hidden canyon, narrow and winding, almost impossible to see from the main desert. The entrance was framed by glowing crystals embedded in the rocks, their faint light pulsing like tiny stars. Jace slowed, his eyes wide. "This is beautiful," he whispered. Amara nodded. "This is my secret," she said. "I've been working on something here for months, away from prying eyes." "What kind of something?" Jace asked, curious. She led him deeper into the canyon, where the ground leveled and widened into a small oasis. Solar-powered water filters hummed softly, reflecting off a clear pond that glimmered under the moonlight. Plants, carefully cultivated in hydro gardens, grew in neat rows, their leaves glowing faintly with bioluminescence. And at the center, on a raised platform, was a device unlike anything Jace had seen. It looked like a hovering cube, its surfaces etched with intricate lines that pulsed with light. Energy flowed through it, softly radiating warmth. Amara worked with a mixture of tools and gestures, adjusting the cube's levitation field. "This is incredible," Jace said. "What does it do?" Amara looked up and smiled, a hint of pride in her eyes. "It's a prototype grav field generator. If I can get it to work properly, it could change how we travel across the desert. No more relying solely on hoverbikes or wheeled vehicles. You could lift off the ground and move freely, almost like flying." Jace reached out to touch the glowing cube, careful not to disrupt it. "You've done all this yourself?" "Mostly," she said. "I've had some help with the raw materials, but the design, that's mine." She paused. "It's why I spend so much time here. Away from the settlements, away from people who don't understand the work." Jace nodded, feeling a quiet respect for her determination. I get that. I've spent most of my life chasing things people say are impossible. Something about this place, it feels like it's full of possibilities. Amara studied him for a moment. You're different from the others who wander through the desert. Most people are too focused on themselves or the artifact they're chasing. You actually notice what's around you. He smiled. Maybe that's why I'm still chasing it. Not for the artifact itself, but for what I find along the way. For a few minutes they worked together, adjusting small energy conduits and calibrating the grav field generator. Jace found himself learning quickly, guided by Amara's instructions and patience. The device began to hum more steadily, glowing brighter, until it hovered smoothly above the platform. There, Amara said, stepping back. That's as close as it gets tonight. I need to observe the readings until morning. Jace looked at the cube, then at the small oasis around them. This place, it's amazing. And you made it happen. Amara laughed softly. I didn't make it alone. As they rested beside the pond, Jace noticed small glowing insects, bioluminescent creatures native to Solara, 7 dancing above the water. The soft light reflected in Amara's eyes, making her look almost ethereal. He felt a strange warmth in his chest, a feeling he hadn't experienced in a long time. Curiosity and admiration mingled with something more, an unspoken connection. Suddenly, a series of small alarms from the grav field generator beeped. Jace and Amara jumped to their feet. The device's energy core was fluctuating. I think it's a minor feedback loop, Amara said, frowning. Nothing dangerous. I just need to reroute the energy flow. Jace moved to help, suggesting adjustments based on what he had learned. Together, they managed to stabilize the device, guiding the energy back into a smooth, pulsing rhythm. The grav field generator hovered steadily once more, glowing like a captured star. That was fun, Jace said, a grin spreading across his face. Amara laughed, shaking her head. You're enjoying this too much. They spent the next hour observing the device, noting how it reacted to the desert's natural energy currents. The moonlight made everything look softer, warmer, and more alive. Jace realized he wasn't thinking about the artifact he had come to find. Not tonight. This place, this work, and the company of Amara were enough. When they finally sat by the pond to rest, the twin moons reflected off the water, creating ripples of light across their faces. Jace noticed how peaceful Amara seemed here, surrounded by the oasis and her work. For the first time, he felt like he was part of something bigger than himself, like the desert itself had chosen to guide him to this moment. You know, Jace said quietly, most people out there think love doesn't exist in the desert. They're wrong. Amara looked at him surprised. You really think so? I do, he said. Maybe it's rare, maybe it's hidden, but it's out here somewhere. You just have to notice it. For a moment they were silent, listening to the desert night. The wind whispered through the canyon, the glowing insects danced above the water, and the hum of the grav field generator filled the air like a heartbeat. I think you might be right, Amara said finally, her voice soft. I've always been too focused on work, too careful to let anyone in, but maybe there's room for something else. Jace smiled, a quiet hope rising inside him. I'll take that as a yes, then. They sat together, watching the sky grow darker and the stars brighter. Jace felt a rare sense of peace, knowing that even in the vast, lonely desert of Solara, 7 connections could form, and trust could grow. Hours passed in comfortable silence, broken only by the soft hum of their bikes and the occasional rustle of desert creatures. Jace realized that this night would stay with him forever, not because of the work, or the desert, or even the rare artifacts he chased, but because he had shared it with someone who mattered. As the first hint of dawn colored the canyon walls in soft pinks and oranges, Jace and Amara prepared to continue their journey. The grav field generator hummed steadily, a promise of possibilities yet to come. Where to next? Jace asked, curious. Amara held up a star chart etched with glowing lines. I've been trying to decode this map, she said. It leads to something hidden, something extraordinary. If we can follow it correctly, it might change everything. Jace's eyes widened. Sounds like an adventure. Amara grinned. You've got that right, but it won't be easy. The path is tricky, and the desert doesn't give up its secrets willingly. Good, Jace said, feeling excitement rise in his chest. I like a challenge. Side by side, they mounted their hoverbikes, the first light of the suns casting long shadows behind them. The canyon walls glowed softly, as if wishing them luck on the journey ahead. Jace realized that this wasn't just about following a map or chasing a treasure. It was about trust, teamwork, and the quiet thrill of sharing a moment with someone who truly understood the world around them. As they rode into the rising sun, the desert stretched endlessly before them, full of unknowns, mysteries, and possibilities. And for Jace, the frontier didn't feel lonely anymore, not with Amara by his side. The stars faded in the morning light, but the sense of wonder remained, pulsing like the grav field generator itself. And Jace knew, somehow, that this was only the beginning. The sun hung low over the eastern canyons of Solara. 7, turning the sand and rock into shades of deep amber and burnt orange. Jace Roan and Amara Voss rode side by side on their hoverbikes, their paths weaving through the twisting valleys like threads of light. The air smelled of warm dust, and the faint hum of the desert's energy seemed to flow beneath them, guiding their journey. Jace kept his eyes on the horizon, but he couldn't stop glancing at Amara. She seemed completely at ease navigating the narrow canyon walls, her hands steady and movements confident. He had traveled across Solara felt many times, but riding with her felt different. It was almost like flying, though their hoverbikes never left the ground. "You've been quiet," Amara said suddenly, breaking the comfortable hum of the wind. "I'm just thinking," Jace replied, "about this map you mentioned, the one that leads to the Sky Garden." Amara glanced at him, her eyes reflecting the fading sunlight. "Yes. I've been trying to decode it for months. It's a star chart language that only someone familiar with desert energy flows could understand. That's why I need you." Jace raised an eyebrow. "Me? I'm just a wanderer." "Exactly," she said, a smile tugging at her lips. "You notice things most people ignore. You understand the desert in ways that can't be taught. I need that perspective if we're going to find the Sky Garden." Jace felt a thrill of excitement. The Sky Garden was legendary, a floating island said to bloom only once every 100 years. Its flowers were rumored to glow like captured sunlight, and its rare plants were believed to hold untold energy potential. He had chased artifacts before, but this was something entirely different. The canyon narrowed suddenly, forcing them to slow. Jagged rocks rose like the spines of some ancient creature, and their hoverbikes hovered just inches above the sand. "Careful here. The wind currents shift in narrow passages. A small misstep and you could be off course for hours." Jace adjusted the throttle, feeling the subtle pull of the desert beneath him. The canyon walls seemed alive, glowing faintly with the last light of the sun. He noticed strange patterns etched into the rocks, ancient markings that pulsed softly, almost as if guiding their way. "Do you see that?" he asked, pointing. Amara's eyes widened. "Yes, these are old guidance markings. They're part of the Sky Garden's map. Only someone who can read the desert properly would notice them." Jace smiled, a rush of pride warming his chest. "Guess I'm lucky then." They followed the markings carefully, tracing lines that led them deeper into the canyon network. The air grew cooler as the shadows stretched, and the twin moons began their climb in the sky. Amara slowed, bringing her hoverbike to a gentle hover. "This is it," she whispered. "The point where the map becomes tricky. If we misread it, the Sky Garden could slip right past us." Jace leaned closer, studying the star chart etched into the top of her grav field generator. Lines of light flowed across the device, matching the ancient markings on the rocks. He noticed subtle energy pulses beneath the desert surface, and suddenly, everything clicked into place. "The currents," he said. "We need to follow the energy flows, not just the map." Amara's eyes lit up. "Exactly! You see it!" Working together, they adjusted their hoverbikes to align with the desert's natural energy streams. The vehicles responded immediately, gliding with newfound grace through the canyon passages. It was as if the desert itself had welcomed them, guiding them forward toward the hidden Sky Garden. Hours passed and the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the canyon walls in shades of gold and violet. Jace and Amara paused on a wide plateau overlooking a massive chasm. The wind carried a faint scent of something sweet, almost floral. "Do you smell that?" Jace asked. Amara's eyes sparkled. "We're close. The Sky Garden isn't far from here." The air carries its energy. Jace felt a rush of anticipation. All the stories he had heard about the Sky Garden, the glowing flowers, the floating island, the rare plants, were about to become real. But beyond that, he realized he wasn't just chasing a legend anymore. He was sharing this journey with someone who mattered, someone whose presence made the desert feel warmer and brighter than it had ever felt before. They descended carefully into the chasm, guided by the glowing markings and the energy flows beneath the sand. Strange plants grew along the canyon edges, faintly luminous, as if acknowledging their passage. Jace reached out, brushing a finger over a soft leaf, feeling a small spark of energy run through his hand. "This is incredible," he whispered. Amara nodded, her expression softening. "It is, but the sky garden is even more extraordinary. You won't believe it until you see it." As they continued, the canyon opened into a hidden valley, unlike anything Jace had ever imagined. A gentle mist rose from the ground, catching the moonlight and scattering it like tiny diamonds. Strange flowers glowed softly, and small streams of energy wound through the rocks like silver ribbons. At the center, a raised platform of stone and crystal seemed to float above the ground, suspended by invisible forces. Jace's eyes widened. This must be it," Amara nodded. "The sky garden. We found it." They landed their hoverbikes carefully, stepping onto the soft, glowing ground. The air felt alive, humming with energy. Flowers pulsed in rhythm with the desert currents, and small creatures, bioluminescent and delicate, moved gracefully among the plants. Jace had chased many wonders before, but nothing compared to this. Amara turned to him, a smile playing across her lips. "I never thought anyone would actually help me reach this place. And now, we're here together." Jace felt a warmth spread through his chest. "I'm glad I followed you," he said. "Not just for the sky garden, but for this." "For you?" Amara's eyes softened. "I've always been careful, Jace. Careful not to let anyone in, not to trust anyone. But..."
I guess they wanted to do that.
They walked slowly through the garden, careful not to disturb the delicate balance of energy around them. Jace reached out, letting his fingers brush against a glowing flower. It pulsed gently, sending a ripple of warmth through him. "This place, it's alive," he whispered. Amara nodded. "It is, and it's been waiting for someone who can understand it, who can respect it." Jace realized that finding the Sky Garden wasn't just about discovery or adventure, it was about connection. With Amara, he had learned to notice the small things, to understand the desert, and now to share a moment that was rare and precious. The suns began to rise again, painting the Sky Garden in soft gold and pink. The floating platform above the valley reflected the light, making the entire garden shimmer as if it were made of captured sunlight. Jace and Amara stood side by side, watching the scene in awe. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Amara whispered. Jace nodded. "More than I imagined. And more than I expected to find in this desert. I thought I was chasing artifacts, treasures, and legends. But this feels like the real treasure." Amara looked at him, her eyes reflecting the first rays of sunlight. "I think maybe love is part of the treasure too," she said softly. Jace's heart swelled. "I think you're right." For a long moment they simply stood together, the sky garden glowing around them, a quiet witness to the beginning of something new. The desert had given them a gift far beyond anything they had imagined, a place of wonder, a shared adventure, and the chance to trust and care for someone else. As the light of dawn spread across the valley, Jace and Amara knew that the journey wasn't over. There were still mysteries to explore, paths to follow, and secrets waiting beyond the next canyon. But for now, in this moment, they had found something extraordinary. Not just the sky garden, but a connection that made the harsh desert world feel like home. Jace reached for Amara's hand. She took it without hesitation, a silent agreement that they would face whatever came next together. The sky garden shimmered around them, a reminder that even in the most unlikely places, beauty and wonder, and perhaps love, could be found. The desert wind whispered through the canyon, carrying their laughter, their excitement, and the promise of new adventures. And as the twin moons faded in the brightening sky, Jace knew that the sun would set again, but this time they would face it together. The twin suns of Solara. 7 hung low over the canyon, painting the sky garden in shades of gold and rose. Jace Rowan and Amara Voss stood on the soft, glowing ground, their hoverbikes parked at the edge of the floating island. The valley below shimmered with energy, tiny streams of light twisting through the flowers and rocks like silver threads. Jace took a deep breath, letting the warmth of the suns and the hum of the desert settle inside him. "It's incredible," he whispered. "Even more than I imagined." Amara smiled, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "It is, but it's fragile. The energy here is delicate, and it changes with the currents of the desert. If we're not careful, it could shift before we even explore it fully." Jace nodded. "Then let's make sure we don't miss anything." They moved together across the floating platform, careful to step lightly on the glowing flowers. Each plant seemed alive, pulsing softly in response to their presence. Tiny creatures with translucent wings flitted between blossoms, scattering sparkles of bioluminescent light in every direction. The air smelled sweet, like honey and sunlight, and Jace realized he had never felt so peaceful in his life. "This place, it's like it's alive," Jace said, his voice barely above a whisper. "And it's happy we're here." Amara glanced at him, a soft warmth in her eyes. "I've always believed the desert had secrets, but this is beyond anything I dreamed of finding. And sharing it with someone who understands, it makes it even better." For a long moment they walked in silence, marveling at the sky garden. Jace reached out to touch a glowing flower. It pulsed gently, sending a ripple of warmth through his hand. Amara watched him, smiling, before she too knelt beside a small patch of bioluminescent moss, tracing her fingers across the delicate plants. "This energy," Jace said thoughtfully, "it feels like it's alive, but not dangerous, like it wants to be discovered, not tamed." Amara nodded. "Exactly. You can't force it. You have to move with it, not against it. That's the lesson of the desert, too." Jace looked at her, realizing that she wasn't just talking about plants and energy. She was talking about life, about people, about trust. And somehow he knew she had learned this lesson the hard way. "Amara," he said softly, "I've chased so many things across this desert. Artifacts, stories, legends, but I think the real treasure is right here, with you." Amara's eyes widened slightly. She looked away, then back at him, her cheeks faintly glowing in the light of the twin suns. "Jace, Before she could finish, a gentle pulse of energy ran through the platform, causing the floating island to lift slightly higher. Jace steadied himself, feeling the hum of the sky garden beneath his boots. Amara laughed softly, the sound like wind through the canyon. "It's okay," she said. "The garden's just welcoming us, I think." They continued exploring, discovering small pools that reflected the sky like liquid crystal, and flowers that changed colors when touched. Time seemed to slow, as if the sky garden existed in its own quiet rhythm. Jace felt a sense of wonder he had never experienced before. But it wasn't just the place. It was the company, the connection, the quiet trust they had built over days of riding, repairing, and decoding. As the suns dipped lower, casting long shadows across the glowing flowers, Jace realized that the moment he had been waiting for, the one the desert had teased him with for so long, was here. He turned to Amara. "I need to tell you something." She looked at him curiously. "What is it?" Jace took a deep breath. I think I found something more valuable than any artifact or legend I've ever chased. I've found someone I trust, someone who understands the desert, the stars, someone I care about more than I ever thought I could." Amara stepped closer, placing a hand gently on his arm. "Jace, I feel the same way. I've spent so long guarding my heart, thinking the desert was too harsh for anything else. But being with you feels like finally coming home." Jace's chest swelled. He reached out, taking her hand in his. Their fingers intertwined naturally, as if they had been meant to fit together all along. The sky garden pulsed softly beneath them, glowing brighter, as though acknowledging their bond. "Then, I guess we found the real treasure," Jace said, a grin spreading across his face. Amara laughed softly. "Yes, and it wasn't buried under rocks or hidden in a legend. It was right here all along." They stood together, hand in hand, as the sun set fully, bathing the sky garden in warm golden light. Shadows danced across the floating platform, and the delicate plants shimmered like fireflies in the twilight. Jace felt a sense of peace and happiness he had never known before. "We should take a moment," Amara said, her voice gentle, "to appreciate this, us." "Everything," Jace nodded, closing his eyes and letting the warmth of the sunset wash over him. When he opened them again, Amara was watching him with a soft smile. For the first time, he didn't feel the need to chase, to wander, to search. Everything he had been looking for was here, beside him, in the heart of the sky garden. They spent the next hour exploring slowly, taking in every detail, the glowing flowers, the floating streams of energy, the tiny creatures that flitted through the air. Jace marveled at how alive the place felt, and how alive he felt inside it, not just because of the sky garden, but because of Amara. As the twin moons rose again, casting a silver glow over the valley, Jace realized that they had to return to the desert settlements eventually. But for now, there was no rush. The sky garden had taught them patience, harmony, and the beauty of discovery. And it had also taught them something even more precious: how to open their hearts. "I think we should leave something behind," Jace said, crouching beside a small patch of glowing flowers. "A memory, a mark that we were here, but that doesn't hurt anything. Together they traced gentle patterns in the sand, letting their energy mingle with the pulses of the garden. The plants responded with soft glows, and for a moment it felt as if the sky garden itself had welcomed them, recognized them, and blessed them. Finally, as the suns disappeared completely below the horizon, casting the world into gentle twilight, Jace turned to Amara. "I don't want this moment to end," he said. She smiled, squeezing his hand. "It doesn't have to. We can carry it with us. The Sky Garden isn't just a place. It's what we feel right now. We can take that with us anywhere we go." Jace nodded, feeling a swell of gratitude and love. "Then let's make a promise." Amara tilted her head, curious. "A promise?" "To always notice the small wonders. To trust the desert, the stars, and each other. No matter where our paths take us, we'll remember this." Amara's eyes glimmered in the soft light. "I promise," she said. They stood together, the floating island beneath them humming softly, the twin moons casting silver light, and the desert beyond stretching endlessly in every direction. For the first time, Jace felt that he had truly found a home. Not a physical place, but a feeling, a bond, a connection. And the sun might set today, but in their hearts it would always shine. As they mounted their hover bikes to leave, the Sky Garden pulsed one last time in soft, glowing approval. Jace and Amara rode side by side, their hands brushing occasionally, their laughter echoing across the canyon. The desert no longer seemed empty, and the journey ahead was no longer lonely. Together they followed the winding paths back to Dustwell, carrying the memory of the Sky Garden, the warmth of their newfound connection, and the knowledge that love, like the desert and the stars, could bloom in the most unexpected places. The twin suns had set, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold. And as Jace glanced at Amara smiling beside him, he knew that some treasures weren't meant to be chased. They were meant to be shared. The desert whispered around them, soft and endless, carrying the promise of more adventures, more discoveries, and more moments like this. And for Jace Roan, the lonesome trail had finally led him home.